Greetings, fellow carbon-based bipeds. I am Scott Rose, and you are watching Explosions and Stuff. Today, I'll be reviewing the 1992 film American Samurai, starring David Bradley and Mark Dacascos. An overview of the movie: a plane crashes in a remote part of Japan, and only an American baby survives. That baby is taken in by a Japanese family and is raised in the ways of the samurai. Many years later, Drew Collins has received his family's sacred samurai sword instead of his half-brother Kenjiro. Enraged by this, Kenjiro steals the sword and draws Collins to Turkey, where they compete in a contest known as Live Blade, where the combatants fight to the death. The pros of this movie? Well, first of all, the fight scenes in this movie were just amazing. They were all very skilled martial artists, and the fight scenes they created were just beautiful. Tying in with that, they had a variety of fighting styles. Like, there was a barbarian who was a ripoff of Conan the Barbarian. There was a Viking guy. There were samurais, obviously. There was a guy who knew wushu. There was a pirate. There was a brawler. I mean, the variety of the fighting styles was just fantastic. Also, believe it or not, I thought this movie was quite well written, considering what it was. The story was easy to understand. It was engageable. Most of the dialogue was believable. They did a fantastic job writing the story. And also, the blood effects in this movie were just fantastic. This movie was made in 1992. And with that in mind, the practical effects and the wounds and the blood and all of that stuff was just gorgeous and believable and realistic. It was fantastic. The cons of this movie? Well, first of all, a lot of the acting was stiff. Most notably, Mark Dacascos. Now, I'm cutting him some slack because this was his very first acting job. This movie was his first attempt at acting. But he's also one of those actors who he's decent playing like calm, cool, and collected, and just everyday average Joe kind of guy. But the moment you want him to be mad or sad or really happy or just some sort of very strong emotion, like, he just overacts like nobody's business. And in this movie, he played Kenjiro, and Kenjiro 9 times out of 10 was pissed off. So you have Mark Dacascos just overacting like crazy in his role as Kenjiro, but I'm willing to cut him slack because this was his first acting job. Also, there was this love interest role in the movie, who was like the girl Drew Collins was supposed to be in love with. Really, she served no purpose in the movie. In the beginning, she was just this bitchy reporter that Drew Collins and her were butting heads and just being annoying. And then later on, she was this bitchy love interest. She was like, "You don't have to fight in this. I don't know what you're talking about. This is stupid." And just dumping on his culture. If she was there for sympathy and to be someone that the audience cares about, she failed miserably. I didn't give a damn about her. I wanted her to die. I was like, just leave her ass behind. Seriously, don't worry about her. Just fight your fight and let her die because she's a bitchy, annoying character. Really, there was no reason for her to be in the movie. She didn't serve any purpose whatsoever. Just don't even have her. Also, probably my biggest complaint about the movie was it was poorly edited. Let's be honest. Now, I'm guessing they felt that the action was too concentrated in the second or the last third of the movie, and that the middle third of the movie was just too slow because it was dialogue or something. So in the editing room, they just chopped it up and put it back together out of order. I don't know. But it's one of those things where a lot of people complain about this person died in this scene and he's in the locker room in the very next scene. But when you watch it and you realize that the movie was cut up and put back together out of order, it makes so much more sense. Like, all the fights were supposed to happen at one point. All the dialogue and all the exposition describing the fights and the conversations in the locker room were supposed to happen in this little middle chunk. It makes so much more sense. And it's obvious, just based on the characters' costumes that they're wearing, that these scenes were cut up and put back together out of order. And it really takes away from the film. And also, to tie in with that, the final fight scene in the movie, the epic showdown between Drew Collins and Kenjiro, that was the worst fight scene I've ever seen in any movie, ever in my life. And that's entirely because they just took POV shots from other fight scenes throughout the movie and just mashed them all together to make it feel like these two were fighting. And it was obvious. Like, the costumes changed. You could actually see the weapons from the people they fought earlier in the movie. Like, when it was showing Drew Collins on screen, you could see the head of the axe from when he fought the Viking. Or when it was when Kenjiro was on the screen, you could see the Chinese sword from when he fought the Kung Fu guy. It was just blatant and obvious, and that was easily the worst fight scene I have ever seen in any movie. The best action scene in the movie? That would have to be the fight scene between Fong Su and Xing Yi. I mean, the weird thing is, these two weren't major characters in the movie. Although Fong Su was kind of the most memorable character for me in the movie. First time I saw this movie I was in like the 7th grade, and I just remembered this character. But these two people fought, and they weren't main characters, they were supporting characters, and their fight was just beautiful. Xing Yi was like this guy using wushu and stuff, and he had this, basically a blade on a big-ass handle, and Fong Su was, I don't know what kind of martial arts he was using, I'm just going to call it Kung Fu, and he had the Kung Fu swords, and just beautiful fight scene, beautiful, amazing. These two, it was like they were dancing. It was gorgeous and fantastic and brutal at the same time. And it was just amazing. I love that fight scene. My overall thoughts on the movie? This is the movie that got me into direct-to-video action movies. So I may be a little bit biased towards it. That being said, if you can't tell, I enjoyed this movie. Now, it's not something I'll watch over and over again. But I own a copy, and I watch it about once a year. I give this movie 1 thumb up. Now, I used to say that this was a good movie that was ruined by bad editing. But watching it again, I realized that the editing wasn't as bad as I thought. You know, just some of the scenes are out of order. If you decide to watch this movie, which I recommend doing, try and get the VHS version if you can, because the DVD version has been censored quite a bit. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it and subscribe to my channel for new action movie reviews posted every week. Also, if you have any recommendations for movies you would like me to review in the future, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you, and have a nice day. Now, I used to say that this was a good movie that was ruined by bad Fuck! Why can't I say the word editing? Son of a bitch.